It was one of those cold, gray afternoons when the world seemed to forget its warmth. The sky hung heavy with rain, the kind that seeps through thin coats and tired bones. At a lonely intersection outside a small town in Tennessee, an old woman stood by a gas pump, counting crumpled bills in her shaking hands. Her name was Martha Lewis, and she had exactly $10 to her name. $10. That was it. Not enough for groceries, barely enough for gas, but enough to keep her dignity a little longer. Her old Chevy truck coughed like an aging dog each time she turned the key, but it still carried her to the grocery store once a week and to church every Sunday. That truck was her last piece of independence, the one thing she hadn't yet lost since her husband passed 2 years ago. Martha didn't expect that on that ordinary, gray afternoon. The last $10 she owned would change her life forever. As she prepared to leave, she noticed something unusual. A young man on a motorcycle parked by the side of the road. The rain had soaked through his leather jacket, and his bike seemed dead, leaning hopelessly as he kicked it in frustration. He looked rough, tattoos, long beard, dark clothes. But Martha saw something else in his face. Not danger, not arrogance, just exhaustion. She hesitated. Most people would have driven away, locking their doors. But that wasn't Martha. Her husband, George, had been a mechanic. She knew the look of a man stranded with a dead engine and an empty tank. She slowly drove her truck up beside him, rolled down the window and said, "Son, you look like you could use some help." The biker turned, surprised. "Mum, I'll be fine. Just out of gas. Forgot my wallet in my buddy's truck. I'll figure it out." Martha smiled kindly. "You won't figure it out standing here freezing. Come on, let's get you some gas." He shook his head. "I can't let you do that, ma'am. You don't even know me." She looked down at the $10 bill in her hand, then back at him. "Maybe not. But I know what it's like to have nobody stop for you. Let me do this one good thing today." Before he could argue, she walked into the small gas station and handed the bill to the clerk. $10 on pump 3, she said with a tired smile. The clerk looked at her pityingly. He'd seen her before, always buying just enough groceries to get by. When she came back out, the biker looked almost embarrassed. "You didn't have to." "Maybe not," she interrupted softly. "But kindness doesn't need a reason, dear." He helped her pump the gas into his bike, thanked her repeatedly, and asked for her name. "Martha," she said, and he told her his. "Kylie." She waved goodbye, climbed back into her old truck and drove off. That night, she skipped dinner. Her pantry was nearly empty, but she didn't regret it. George would have done the same, she whispered, looking up at his old photo on the wall. The next morning, she woke to the sound of roaring engines, the kind that shakes the ground and rattles windows. She sat up in bed, heart pounding. Then she heard it. A knock on the door. When she opened it, her jaw dropped. Outside, filling the entire street, were at least 50 bikers, men and women of all ages, dressed in leather jackets and boots. Their bikes gleamed in the morning sun, lined up like a chrome army. In front of them stood Kyle, holding a bouquet of flowers in a small envelope. "Martha," he said, smiling through his beard, "you didn't just help a biker yesterday. You helped a brother from a family, our family. We're part of the Iron Shield Riders. We look after our own and the people who look after us." Martha blinked, tears welling up. "Oh, I didn't expect." He stepped closer, placing the envelope in her trembling hands. "We took up a little collection last night, for someone who reminded us that there's still good in this world." Her fingers shook as she opened it. Inside was a check. For $10,000, she gasped, covering her mouth. "No, this can't be right. I can't take this." Kyle smiled. "You didn't ask for anything. That's exactly why you deserve it." The other bikers nodded, their eyes kind and sincere. One of them spoke up. "You gave what you didn't have to help someone you didn't know. That kind of heart changes lives. Now, let us change yours." Tears streamed down Martha's cheeks. She looked at all those strangers, tattoos, bandanas, rough hands, and saw something she hadn't felt in years: family. They spent the day repairing her old Chevy. Some cleaned up her front yard, others brought food and supplies. By evening, her pantry was full, her truck was running smoother than ever, and her heart felt lighter than it had since George died. Later, as the sun dipped below the hills, The riders gathered in her driveway, engines rumbling softly like a lullaby. Kyle gave her a small patch, an embroidered emblem of their group. It read A6 or Iron Shield Honor Heart, Brotherhood. "Consider yourself one of us now," he said with a grin. "You helped a biker once. Now 50 of us will have your back forever." Martha clutched the patch against her chest. "You boys don't know what this means to me," she whispered. Kyle looked at her with gentle eyes. "Actually, Mum, I think we do." That night, as the bikers rode off into the distance, their taillights glowing red against the twilight, Martha stood on her porch, her heart full. She looked at the check again, then at the stars beginning to appear. She realized that the $10 she had given away wasn't a loss. It was a seed of kindness that had grown into something so much bigger, something beautiful. And though she was an old woman living alone on the edge of town, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would never feel alone again. Because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness echoes the loudest. Sometimes, a simple gesture from the heart can come back multiplied 1,000 times over, carried on the roaring wings of those who remember what humanity truly means.